All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this regular City Council meeting to order. If you would all rise for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which this evening will be led by Councilmember Nunn.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A roll call, please.
Mayor Hill.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. This evening, Council, do you have any modifications to the agenda request? Hearing none, we'll move to item 5, proclamations, awards, and brief announcements. There are no proclamations or awards this evening. We do have some brief announcements. On Thursday, February 10th, Operation New Day will be at Riverview Park from 5:30 to 9 p.m. Saturday, February 12th, the Craft Club of Sebastian show will be at Riverview Park from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Saturday, February 19th, Sebastian River Art Club at Riverview Park will be there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Monday, February 24th, the President's Day observance will be held at City Hall by closing it. So, anything other from council on brief announcements? All right, very good. Hearing none. That leads us to item 7, public input. At this time, anyone from the public who wishes to bring an item otherwise not on the agenda this evening, please come forward. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, I'm Peter Puzo. I am with the Sons of the American Legion here in Sebastian, and I am here on behalf of Squadron 189 to propose a new monument at Riverview Park, in what we call the Circle of Honor, where the other monuments are. And this one would be slightly different than what's out there, but it'd take the same basic shape of the other war monuments that you have out there. This one would be in black, and it's going to be dedicated to the POW MIAs. And on the face of that would be the POW MIA logo that we should all be aware of. And what I'm proposing is that it be placed just to the walkway to the side, just to the south, let's say, of the circle and the flagpole. And I brought a picture of what it would basically look like right here. I can pass it around if I may approach. Yes,
Thank you.
That is a monument that is in one of the forts here in up in Georgia or North Carolina, I believe. And it's something that I think we need, because there are 82,000 Americans still unaccounted for from all the wars since World War I. That is dedicated to their memory and their honor. There are 2 specific days during the course of the year where a ceremony would be held there, which we would do on our own. We do that for the POW MIA Remembrance Day and POW MIA Family Day. We would hold a small little service there, open it, let the public know. They can come up. The only thing that'll be required from the city would be simple maintenance of the area. We will raise the funds to have it built and erected. So all we're asking is permission to go forth with this project.
Well, it's beautiful, and I think very, very worthy for sure. We do have a Veterans Advisory Committee.
I've already been in before them and got their support, as with the VFW and our American Legion Post.
Okay. Have we gotten a recommendation from the advisory committee on this?
I've not seen it. Brian may have gotten it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would thank you very much. I appreciate you coming and bringing this to us this evening. I certainly wouldn't be in opposition to having something on the agenda for an approval at some point.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Personally, I have an uncle that is MIA, has never returned from Korea, and my stepfather was a POW for 18 months in Korea. So that's a beautiful monument, and one of them was a resident of Sebastian before he died. So that would be a wonderful thing. I moved that we try to get this on the agenda for a future meeting.
Okay, yeah, well, there's not going to be any action under public input, but I think just a general consensus to place this on a future meeting would be just fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
you
much.
tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for your hard work and your service to our country. Anyone else like to bring something before this body this evening? Anyone on Zoom?
We have a few members. If anyone on Zoom would like to speak, please raise your hand now. No one has raised their hand.
All right, thank you for that. Council, we'll move up to item 8, the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 8G.
That was G.
G as in golf.
Thank you. Anything else from council? I'll
Mr.
entertain a
Mayor?
motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, F, H, and I on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
And Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item G, Councilmember Dodd.
Okay, I'm not pulling this because I have any issue with the agenda item. It's just that we get a lot of communication about swell cutting, and I thought that we should highlight to people that we were signing a contract for $548,000 to continue with the swell cutting effort in the city. So we are spending funds and trying to propagate that effort. So I just wanted to make sure that that was known.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate you pulling that. And the $548,500 that we will be spending on this, should it be approved, is considerably less than it would be if we were doing it through city manpower and utilizing our equipment. So I think that it's definitely a good place to go with that.
Yeah, it's a good move. So given that, I move to approve item 8G.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask the city manager a question about
One
this? or you
second, we
wanna
got a
wait?
motion. Does anyone second that motion?
Second.
I got a motion, a second, go ahead.
Mr. City Manager, is this the same company we've used in the past? And I noticed it was not the lowest bidder.
They had done work for the city sometime, it was like 5 or 6 years ago, but it is not the company that we currently have. They were actually lower than this contractor, but based on performance, and I'm not saying anything bad about the company, but we just didn't get the performance that we needed. And the other lower bidders withdrew their bids, and Conklin has done a good job in presenting their bid. Don Wixon's here if you have any additional questions, but they vetted them out very well. We rebid it a couple times because they weren't understanding why we wanted to have a balanced bid, not $500 for ditch mowing and $250,000 for road mowing, because then there's no incentive for them to do the ditch mowing. So we've made this a more balanced bid and instructed them that we are going to require, every time they mow, they're going to have an inspection to make sure they did everything, not just say we will, it's in the contract. And so we're asking you to move forward with this proposed award.
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this because I've received numerous complaints about the company that we currently have not doing the things that they should be doing. So I'm looking forward to someone coming forward and doing the things that we pay them to do.
I agree. One of the reasons I was asking, because I have received complaints as well, and I know they were supposed to cut 4 times a year, and it only feel like, in my count, was 3 times this past year. I see Mr. Attorney has a question?
Well, no, just, Mr. Mayor, if I can, just to clarify also, just piggyback on what the city manager is saying, I also had an issue with that, and I did bring it up to the procurement officer, Don Wixon, and it is addressed there in like the 5th line. The lowest bidder is no longer working for the city. That's why that lowest bidder was eliminated, and it went to the next person up.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, anything else from council members?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue this evening? All right, seeing none. No hands up? Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and this is some money, so we're going to go roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Mayor Hill.
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, council. We have, under item 9, the committee reports and appointments, we have a couple of appointments to make this evening. The Citizens Budget Advisory Review Board, in response to the clerk's advertisement, the clerk has received requests to serve the term. I will take nominations.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate the 2 current alternate members, Mr. Newhart and Mr. Sullivan, to the permanent positions.
Well, there's only one according to.
Yeah, there's
Two
only,
applicants, if
there's
they-
only one available permanent
Oh.
position at this time.
There's only one? Okay,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Newhart.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Sullivan.
All right, are there any other nominations?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I guess I'd like to waive the advertising requirement and appoint Grace Reed to the alternate position, assuming that one of the alternates is moved up.
All right, let's go ahead and do that after.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and take care of this position right now since we have a vote on it. It would be easy to do that if we didn't, so. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Mr. Newhart.
Councilmember Nunn.
Mr. Sullivan.
Mayor Hill.
Newhart.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Newhart.
And Councilmember Dodd.
Newhart.
Okay.
All right, now you would like to move,
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the advertising requirements and that we appoint Grace Reed to fill Mr. Newhart's current alternate member position.
all right, there's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second that motion. Do we need to call that for a vote or just a?
Yes.
Yes,
We
okay,
will,
so I would
yeah.
second that to bring that for a vote as well.
Okay. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on that issue? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you for that. We'll now move to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have a single position open, regular member position to expire November 22nd. We have two applicants. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Linda Kinchins to that position.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move Mr. Cristino up from the alternate to the permanent.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn.
Ms. Kinchin.
Mayor Hill.
Kinchin.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Kitchen.
Councilmember Dodd.
Kitchen.
And Councilmember McPartlin.
Kinchin.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Under committee reports, I would like to report and congratulate Councilmember Ed Dodd today. When we were at the MPO meeting today, we unanimously voted him to serve as the chairman of the MPO. That's a very, very important and prestigious role, as the MPO essentially does all of the planning for our roads and infrastructure in Indian River County out 45 years or so. With Commissioner Dodd at the helm, I'm sure they'll do good things. So congratulations, Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
That's great. I thought it would be me, seeing I had to miss that meeting.
That's
Well, that's
that-
probably
that's
why
why
you
you,
missed
that's
it.
why you,
That's
that's
probably
why
why
you
you
set
missed the
the
meeting.
mirror in your place today, right? You didn't want that to happen.
Oh, that's what happened.
No, I
Okay.
thought I saw you on Zoom at that meeting on the board.
No, that was the visioning the week before. That was this was
okay.
this morning. It's Broward.
They just get all confused,
Well, that
right?
means I don't have to go anymore? Ed is handling it?
No, 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 no. He's the chairman, but you're still a member.
Okay.
No, you're not a member. Actually not.
Make him an
Councilmember
alternate.
McPartlin is
Make
the
him an
member.
alternate.
No, leave Bob.
I nominate as alternate.
Well, I'm an alternate, but we can always add another, but that is at a different time.
All right.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to item 10. Tonight, we have several public hearings. These will be basically second readings. This evening, under 10A, we have a public hearing and second reading on ordinance number O-21-18, private property rights element. I will now open that public hearing and ask the attorney to read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, amending the City of Sebastian's comprehensive plan pursuant to Section 163.3184, subsection 3, Florida statute, providing for adoption of the City of Sebastian Comprehensive Plan 2040, private property rights element, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for transmittal, finding and administrative actions, providing for transmittal, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinance inconsistent with this ordinance, and providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for effective date.
Thank you so much. Mr. Carlo?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, member of council, this is the second reading. The first reading was held on December 15th, 2021. This is a statutory requirement that they put in place under Florida Statute 163 to include a property rights element in our comprehensive plan. Ms. Frazier has put that together. The first hearing, it was passed unanimously, and there hasn't been any modifications that I'm aware of to this ordinance, and would ask council to consider passing this on the second reading. And then Ms. Frazier will answer any questions if you have any. And then this ordinance would become effective 31 days after it's passed, after it has its review.
Okay, very good. So that's the full staff presentation at this time. Ms. Frazier, would you like, do you have anything to bring forward?
I have
Okay.
nothing to add.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I'll ask anyone from the public who wishes to speak on ordinance number O-21-18 to go ahead and raise your hand, and I will call on you to come forward. All right, there being none. Mr. Carlisle, do you have anything further to bring?
I do not, unless
right,
you have
thank
questions for me.
I think we'll close this public hearing and ask for a motion or some deliberation from council.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance O-21-18.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
and Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passed unanimously. We'll go to item 10B. 10B is a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number O-21-14, a petition for voluntary annexation. I will now open that public hearing and ask the attorney to read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the city of Sebastian, Florida, providing for a voluntary annexation for a contiguous and compact area of an unincorporated real property consisting of 1.47 acres, more or less, located south of Vickers Grove Mine and surrounded by industrial land, west of FEC Railroad and north of 99th Street, in accordance with Section 171.044 Florida statute, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's error, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, member of council, this is, again, a second reading of 21-14. This was first heard on October 13th, 2021, and passed unanimously. This is 1.47 acres, more or less, located south of Vickers Grove Mine and west of the railroad tracks and north of 99th Street. This property was, for all intents and purposes, an enclave, and this helps us clean up our property boundaries, and would ask City Council to accept this or approve this second reading of ordinance 21-14, and this ordinance would take effect immediately upon adoption.
All right, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on ordinance O-21-14, the petition for voluntary annexation of 1.47 acres? This is not quasi-judicial, so you're welcome to speak. Right, this isn't the quasi part of it, so.
No.
Right, but yes, you're welcome to speak. Yes, sir.
My name is Warren Dill. I represent Dr. Fisher tonight. I have with me Dr. Fisher's here. We have our engineer, Mr. Schulte, and we have Laura Peterson, our real estate representative. You've heard, we're on the agenda for like 9 items tonight, and you've heard these 9 items 2 and 3 times. We are prepared to stand up here and give you as much detail as you would like to hear on each one of these items. I don't plan to do that unless you want that information each time. So we are here. We can answer any of your questions. We're not hiding from anything. It's just that I think you're very familiar with the items that we have on the agenda because they've been here before. But if you would like at any point in time for us to come up and answer detailed questions, we're prepared to do that. But at this time, I'll sit down unless you have any more questions on this particular item or any of the other items. I don't plan to get up here and take your time and say the same thing 9 times tonight.
Well, thank you very much for that, Council. Does anyone have any questions on this item in particular?
No.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dill. We appreciate you being here, and we will probably have some questions as we go forward.
All right,
and I do appreciate you bringing it to the public's knowledge that we have been through this several times on each one of these issues that we're dealing with, so we appreciate you being here. We should all up here be intimately, have intimate knowledge of everything we're dealing with at this. So,
right.
but we will have questions as we go through the night.
That's fine. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Carlisle?
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing unless you have questions of me or my staff.
All right, thank you very much. We'll close that public hearing and then ask for deliberation or a motion from council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve ordinance O-21-14.
Second.
Motion and a second. You got those? Anything further from council on this item? All right, right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10C, a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number O-21-19, a request for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment to the Fisher 99th Street property. I will now open that public hearing and ask the attorney to read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map to designate a land use classification of IN industrial for land with a current land use designation of CI commercial industrial for land consisting of 1.47 acres, more or less, known as Fisher 99th Street property, located south of Vickers Grove Mine, west of the FEC Railroad, surrounded by commercial and industrial land uses, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing for adoption schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'll let Lisa touch on this because there's some nuances to this one regarding DEO comments and agency comments. So I'll let her give the presentation on this just so that we have the record straight and clear.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Ms. Frater?
Okay. This is the second reading and public hearing for the future land use map amendment for Fisher's 99th Street property. The staff is recommending approval. On December 15th, the council held the first reading of the ordinance, and that's the transmittal hearing where we transmitted the ordinance to the Department of Economic Opportunity up at the state. They reviewed it along with all of the other stakeholders for the last 30 days, and we had no comments or issues with this request for change in land use. We will, with your approval, it will be sent back to DEO for another 30 days, and at that time it will be accepted into our ordinance.
Okay, thank you so much.
One clarification, Mayor, it's 31 days.
31. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak on the rezoning, or I'm sorry, the comprehensive plan future land use map of the Fisher 99th Street property? Ordinance number O-21-19. All right, hearing none. Mr. Carlisle, anything further?
I have nothing.
All right, thank you. We'll close that public hearing and ask for a motion from council.
Mr. Mayor, move approval of ordinance O-21-19.
I second that.
Any further discussion from council members? All right, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
All right, item 10D is my favorite word ever, quasi-judicial. I think I got it right. Hearing. That's going to be on ordinance O-21-20, a request for rezoning of the Fisher 99th Street property. I'm going to open that public hearing and ask the city attorney to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a second reading, and the ordinance reads, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating zoning classification of IN industrial with current zoning designation of IL light industrial for land consisting of 1.47 acres, more or less, known as Fisher 99th Street property, located south of Vickers Grove Mine, west of FEC Railroad, surrounded by commercial and industrial land use, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for a scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, council. At this time, if anyone could disclose any ex parte communications they've had with the applicant.
None.
All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you swear in all who intend to provide testimony this evening on this issue? Anyone intending to provide testimony on ordinance O-21-20, please rise.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now it's time for the applicant to provide the presentation on this issue.
I brought Excuse me, I brought Mr. Scholke up with me because I'm not really sure of what you want to hear on this, but our application it's quasi-judicial, it's to rezone the property, the same zoning as we have on the property right next door to it. It used to be, it's called the Vickers Sand Mine. Traditionally, that's how it's referred to. It's a very small piece of property, 1.47 acres. As stated earlier, it will even out the boundaries of the city somewhat in that area. We're bringing it in because Dr. Fisher wants to use it potentially in conjunction with the large piece, the 150-acre piece of property immediately to the north of this. It's accessed from 99th Street, from US 1 to 99th Street, and then there's Fisher Industrial Boulevard that runs from 99th Street north directly past his property into the larger tract. And on the east side of the road, he has the industrial complex with the units over there. The application, as you can read in your staff report, meets all of the requirements of your comprehensive plan. The staff has done a preliminary qualification of the project as it relates to water, sewer, and things like that. And it's been found to be consistent with those requirements. It's consistent with your comprehensive plan. I don't know what else to add to it. It's a relatively straightforward comprehensive plan amendment.
You are correct, sir. It is a relatively straightforward one. There's no question about that. But this is your time to
Yes,
give a
sir.
presentation should you want. You don't have to, but I appreciate it very much.
Did you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlisle?
And Mr. Mayor, I'll let Ms. Frazier go over the fine points of this property. There's a couple future development ideas there that she can address that's in the packet.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Frazier?
Thank you. This is the second reading on this request for rezoning on Fisher's 99th Street property, a 1.47 acre piece of property and staff recommends approval on second reading. This was heard from the council on December 15th, 2021, and it was also read into or presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, LPA Board, on November 4th, 2021. All was passed unanimously. The rezoning request is in compliance with their comprehensive plan. They're asking for it to change from county light industrial to the city's industrial. So the zoning or use of this property will not change as to what it is today or what it can be in the future. As stated by the applicant, they're looking to attach it to any future development that may occur in Vickers Grove. At this time, we have no site plans or any conceptual plans for the property.
Okay. Thank you, council. Any questions of staff or the applicant? Pretty simple one. Thank you. I'm going to open the floor at this time to anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this annexation, this rezoning. Anyone wish to speak in opposition?
Excuse me, can you clarify what one that was?
Yes, ma'am. It's this is the this is O-21-20, 1.47 acres from industrial to industrial, county industrial to city industrial. Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anything further from the applicant, Mr. Dill? Did you want to bring anything else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Carlisle?
We have nothing further unless council has questions for myself or staff.
Anything from council to staff? All right, I'll close the public hearing and ask for action. Motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance O-21-20.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Item 10E is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number O-21-16, a petition for voluntary annexation of 6.17 acre parcels at 10595 US Highway 1. I'll now open that public hearing and ask the city attorney to read the title. Mr. Nunn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, providing for the voluntary annexation for a contiguous and compact area of an unincorporated real property consisting of 6.17 acres, more or less, located south of a developed property within the Sebastian Highlands, Unit 7, east of the FEC Railroad, west of US Highway 1, and north of vacant land in accordance with Section 171.044 Florida statute, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's error, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. That's why I'm letting Ms. Frazier address these. I did a lot of talking this week. Ms. Frazier.
That's a good thing. We hope you did some aggressive talking.
I'm glad, I'm happy to do it. Before you is the second reading of a petition for voluntary annexation of 6.17 acres on US Highway 1. The parcel lies just south of our corporate limits. It lies east of the FEC Railroad and west of US Highway 1. It is a nice addition to square off our boundaries. We have received all of the applicable information that is consistent with our LDC. And what currently it is, the land use and zoning in the county is commercial, industrial, and commercial limited. It is being changed to general commercial and commercial general respectively if it does become annexed into the city, and staff recommends approval on second reading.
All right, thank you. This is ordinance number O-21-16. This is for the voluntary annexation of Fisher's US Highway 1 property. That's the property, just so everyone's clear, at 10595 US Highway 1. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this? Yes, ma'am, please.
I just have some questions.
Ma'am, you have to come to the podium, state your name, please, and where you're from. Yeah, right up to right other side, right over here. Yes, ma'am.
Donna White, Schuman Drive, Sebastian.
Okay.
That property is directly behind my house, and there's a lake there, and I'm just wondering what that change, adding that to it, whether that can be built up to the lake property, and whether that changes the use of the property from whatever it was in the Indian River to Sebastian, whether that's changing use.
Okay, right now we're talking about annexation, whether or not we want to bring that into the city. The discussion on the use of that property will take place at a later time.
Okay, but
On the zoning.
is it being zoned for the same thing that's coming out of the county to what is coming
So
into
we're
the
gonna
city?
discuss
It's the exact
that.
same zoning, it's just called something
Yes,
different?
ma'am. We're gonna. I don't mean to interrupt you,
Okay.
but we're going to discuss that under 10G. That's when
I don't have one of those papers.
Okay, there are some at the back. Could you bring one of the agendas forward to her, please? There's no more? Okay.
She's good, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. So under 10G is when we'll discuss the rezoning and the zoning and the applicable use on that property.
Okay, but that's related to that property?
It will, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what
Am
are
I
they?
correct in that? That is correct, right? I want to make sure. Yes.
Okay, so they're planning on changing it so it can be made into something different than in the county?
Right now.
So that's why you're annexing it?
No, ma'am. And I'm just going to, I'm not,
Okay.
what we're doing right now.
I just want to know, that's all.
Yes, and you'll know that this evening. So what we're doing is we're deciding under this issue whether or not we wish for that piece to be in the city of Sebastian. That is all we're doing on this item.
Okay, so if it's in the city of Sebastian, it can be added to the property that's 508. Is that why it's happening?
All of those items are up for discussion as we go forward. That property goes from the railroad tracks to US Highway 1. Okay? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on the annexation? Ordinance O-21-16. All right, hearing none. Mr. Carlisle? Ms. Frazier?
Ms. Frazier, would you, sorry.
I have no further additions
All right,
unless you have
thank you very
questions
much. I'm going to
for
close
us.
the hearing at this time. Council, what's your pleasure on O-21-16?
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second that.
Any further deliberation? All right, thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moves us to item 10F, ordinance number O-21, I'm sorry, yes, 21-21, a request for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment for the Fisher US Highway 1 property. And I'll now open that and ask the attorney to read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map to designate a land use classification of GC, General Commercial, for land with a current land use designation of CI, Commercial Industrial, for land consisting of 6.17 acres, more or less, known as Fisher US Highway 1 property, located south of commercial uses, east of FEC Railroad, west of US Highway 1, and residential, multifamily, and north of vacant land, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing for an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you so much for that. Ms. Frazier, do you have a presentation for us this evening? And I think it would be good to discuss what we're talking about, county to city.
Yes, sir. So this evening is the second reading and public hearing for the request for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment for Fisher's US Highway 1 property, which consists of the 6.17 acres bounded by US 1 and FEC Railroad. This council passed unanimously on first reading on December 15th, 2021. Currently in the county, it is designated a C1, which is a commercial industrial use. It is one of the county's highest intensity type of designation. They are requesting, should they be annexed into the city, which I believe they just were, that the land use change would be CG, which is general commercial designation in the city. So in effect, it's less intensive. We do not have any plans on this property at this time. We did send it up to DEO and disseminated it to all of the other stakeholders. They came back with no changes or no comments or adverse impacts for this property and this change in land use. If this council agrees to amend, to adopt this ordinance, the land use change would be amended after 31-day review by DEO.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. So, ma'am, and everyone, for your all's edification, so this land is going from county commercial industrial to city commercial general, which is generally a lower intense use than what the county would allow. So it's actually generally a lower use, than a lower intense use.
Can that be added to the property that's next to it, though?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, please come up.
Can that be added to the property that's next to it, which then would impact my property?
Are you speaking of the property to the south? Or the lake?
To the north,
To the north.
which would be in Sebastian.
That's already in the city of Sebastian.
Yes.
Yes. That's already in the city of Sebastian.
Right.
So
But
we've annexed.
once it's together, then are they doing it to make a package deal out of the thing?
They may or may not. I mean, they could very well
Well,
be
I've
doing
already
it.
had an incident that occurred with this property, so that's, and I didn't get the first notice if there was one,
Okay.
because I was blind until last month.
Oh,
So
sorry to hear that.
now I'm 20/20, but.
Congratulations.
Well, at this time, we're speaking specifically of this property.
Okay. So you just want to annex it, but that may cause me an issue at a later time, correct? It's going to be a less impact? I don't understand. Before it was industrial, so now you're changing it to something more residential? Is that what you're doing?
Okay. We're gonna have to wrap this up here very quickly, but it's going from county industrial, so it can be it's county commercial industrial, which will allow for commercial use as well as industrial use.
Like a storage sort of situation.
And then the city's taking it on, and they're requesting that we reduce the overall intensity of use on the property. So, so yes, so we're speaking specifically about this property itself, going to commercial general in the city of Sebastian.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that have anything to do with like crematoriums or cemeteries
Ma'am,
or economic, low-income properties or anything like that?
Well, we'll get into the discussion on what's going to go into that at a future time, but I'll ask Ms. Frazier to discuss some of the items that are in our commercial general, so she'll discuss that as we go further on with this, okay?
Okay,
All right,
thank
thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this issue at this time? No, I'll get to him, thank you. All right, seeing none. Mr. Dill, there were some questions asked about the property. Yes, please come forward, and if there's something you could do to answer.
Warren Dill, I'm going to try to respond to these questions.
Go ahead.
On the question, I think, regarding the purchase of the property to the south of this, so this ours would be enlarged, Dr. Fisher has no plans to purchase that property to the south.
Ma'am, please.
He has no plans to purchase the property to the north either.
Property to the north, okay.
Number
Doesn't
one.
matter,
Number
really.
two, Dr. Fisher intends at the moment to put mini storage units on it, so it's a quiet use. It's not going to have a lot of traffic that would be noticeable. Number three, he's going to berm the back of the property because he's got railroad tracks back there himself, and it's an earthen berm that'll go in, so I would think that the resident would probably not be disturbed by this use going on the property. It would probably enhance it from other uses that could have gone there in the county.
Right. It's an understandable concern. Obviously, when something goes on very close to you that could affect you, the concern is understandable, but we appreciate you answering those questions for us.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Anyone, counsel, do you have any questions of staff or the applicant at this time? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance O-21-21.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, at this time, item 10G is a quasi-judicial hearing and second public reading of ordinance O-21-22. It's a request for rezoning Fisher's U.S. Highway 1 property. And that's the property that we were just discussing for the future land use map. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of CG Commercial General with current zoning designation of CL Commercial Limited for land consisting of 6.17 acres, more or less, known as Fisher U.S. Highway 1 property, located south of commercial use, east of the FEC Railroad, west of U.S. Highway 1 and residential multifamily, and north of vacant land, providing for conflict, providing for its severability, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, counsel. At this time, would you disclose any ex parte communication you will have had with the applicant?
No.
All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could do me a favor and swear in anyone who wishes to provide testimony, including staff or the applicant, on ordinance O-21-22.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you are about to give or present during the public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Dill, at this time, if you would wish to make a presentation, you can at this time.
Good evening. My name is Warren Dill. I represent Dr. Fisher, and Mr. Scholke is here from Scholke Biddle Stoddard if we have any technical questions that I can't answer. As the caption of the ordinance says, this is a request to rezone 6.17 acres from a county zoning of CG, CG in the city, I'm sorry, and it's current C1 in the county, which is a more intense use than we're going to in the city. They're both commercial uses. The county just allows a little more intense use of this property than we will have in the city. The application is consistent with your comprehensive plan for commercial use of the area. The staff has found that the proposed commercial zoning is consistent with your land development regulations at this point. And I stood up before, which probably should have come under this category, for the uses. I indicated that Dr. Fisher has an intended use of the property as mini storage units on the property, has no intention to buy either property on either side of him. This property is 6.1 acres, and it's more than enough to do what, in size, to do what he wants to do on it, which would be the mini storage units. And he intends to buffer the property completely. You've got pretty significant landscape requirements in the city, so he'll be doing that, and he'll also be adding a berm to the back of the property, not only for the protection of the neighbors, but for his protection, because the property abuts the railroad tracks on the west side. I have nothing else to say unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Frazier?
Yes, good evening. As stated, this is a request for rezoning of Fisher's US Highway 1 property. This council heard this request on December 15th, 2021, and passed it unanimously on first reading. This request was also presented to the PZ Commission and LPA on November 4th, who also recommended approval. This request is to change from County CL, Commercial Limited, to City CG, Commercial General. It is a compatible exchange of uses between the County CL and the Commercial General in the city. We have found that it is consistent with the comp plan and compatible with surrounding uses, and we recommend approval.
Okay. Thank you. Now, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak in opposition to Ordinance O-21-22? The rezoning of this property from County C1 to CG in the city. All right, seeing none. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to it? I just asked if opposition part. All right, anyone who wishes to speak in favor? All right, thank you. Kind of messed that one up a little bit, but not too bad. At this time, Mr. Dill, do you have anything further you'd like to bring on this item? Okay, thank you. Ms. Frazier, anything further?
No further.
All right, thank you. Anything further from council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of Ordinance O-21-22.
I second that.
A motion and a second from, who was that, Mr., was that Vice Mayor or was that Bob? Councilmember McFarland.
I have my hand up his back.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I know this is all very boring to everyone. This is just policy. It's very policy driven, but there's reasons that we have to take each one of these steps because we want to make sure that we're doing everything by the law, by the book, to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So although it kind of looks like it's just kind of motions, it kind of is because we have to go step by step through each one of these to make sure that it's fairly done and done properly. So leading us to item, what are we at, 10I?
H.
10H, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number O-21-15, a petition for voluntary annexation of 19.58 acres, a parcel at 1820 Shakespeare Street. Mr. Anon, would you read the title?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the city of Sebastian, Florida, providing for a voluntary annexation for a continuous and compact area of an unincorporated real property consisting of 19.58 acres, more or less, located at the southeast intersection of Shakespeare Street and Yearling Trail and 1/4 mile north of County Road 510, surrounded by residential and vacant property in accordance with Section 171.044 Florida statute, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Ms. Frazier?
Yes, good evening. This is the second reading and public hearing for a petition for voluntary annexation of 19.58 acre parcel located at 1820 Shakespeare Street. On October 13th, 2021, the council held the first reading of this ordinance and passed it unanimously. This is effectively an enclave surrounded by three sides of the city, and contiguous to the existing corporate limits. This is a recommended addition in order to, again, square off our boundaries, our city boundaries, and improving our level of service to that corporate limit. Currently, in the county, it is rural, R rural, and A1, agricultural 1. They are proposing that the land use and zoning change to very low density and RS10 residential single family. This is compatible with the adjacent properties known as Cross Creek Lakes Estate Development, and staff recommends approval of this petition for annexation.
Okay, thank you. And so everyone from the public understands this is ordinance O2115, the Cross Creek Subdivision Edition. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item this evening? All right, seeing none. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and ask for action from council.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance O-21-15.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Nunn and a second by Vice Mayor Jones? Vice Mayor Jones. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, item 10I, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number O-21-23, which is a request for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment for the Cross Creek addition. Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the city of Sebastian, Florida, approving an amendment of the comprehensive plan future land use map to designate a land use classification of VLD, very low density, for land with a current and land use designation of R, rural, for land consisting of 19.58 acres, more or less, known as Cross Creek Addition, located at the southeast intersection of Shakespeare Street and Yearling Trail and a quarter-mile north of County Road 510, surrounded by residential and vacant property, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing for an adoptive schedule.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Frazier, do you have a presentation to give us this evening?
I'm sorry. Map amendment request for Cross Creek Lake Estates addition on December 15th, 2021. The council held the first reading of this ordinance and passed it unanimously. It was presented to LPA on November 4th, who also recommended this land use change unanimously. The change request is from rural, our rural in the county, to very low density residential in the city. We have transmitted this request up to the Department of Economic Opportunity and to stakeholders and have received no comment or no adverse impact. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this land use amendment.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on ordinance O-21-23, which is the future land use amendment to make it low, very low residential?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Pat Sandos. I live at Cross Creek Lake Estates. I'll be brief. I would like the council to work with the developer and the citizens of Cross Creek, and I have concerns in regard to safety with the taxpayers that reside in Cross Creek Lake Estates. We know financially the burden is not yours. However, as taxpayers, the safety. For 3 years, we've tried to get trees that are dead cut, that fall where people fish, that fall where people walk. The sidewalks are cracked I have documents, and I think at the next meeting when this comes up, I can present more accurate and pictures of this. Sidewalks where people trip or we have to walk on the road because the sidewalks haven't been fixed. And the drains, the openings to the drains are cracked. We have asked for a light by the mailbox. It's commensurate to you asking me to go pick up my mail down a dark alley. I mean, and we're not asking a lot. We're asking perhaps even a solar light. So I'm asking that the council be cognizant of the people that live there and the concerns that we have there for our safety and functionality as we move forward to moving it from the agricultural to the residential.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I can assure you, this is an assurance to the public that council and staff will be working very diligently on all of the issues that affect the citizens of Cross Creek, as well as those who are in the Highlands area that this will affect as well. So all of those concerns are always listened to, and staff will work diligently with the applicant to make sure they're resolved to the best of our abilities and theirs, I'm sure. Ms. Frazier, do you have anything further to bring?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. I'll call for a motion, please.
I move approval O21-23.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, passed unanimously. Item 10J, a quasi-judicial hearing, and second reading of ordinance number O-21-24, a request for rezoning of the Cross Creek addition. We'll open the public hearing and ask the city attorney to kindly read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the city of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of RS10, residential single family, with current zoning designation of A1, agricultural 1, for land consisting of 19.58 acres, more or less, known as Cross Creek Addition, located at the southeast intersection of Shakespeare Street and Yearling Trail and a quarter-mile north of County Road 510, surrounded by residential and vacant property, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, council. Anyone have any ex parte communications to reveal? All right, seeing none. I don't either. All right, Madam Clerk, if you would kindly swear anyone in who wishes to provide testimony, that would include staff or the applicant.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
Mr. Dill, would you like to give a presentation on this issue? Ordinance?
Yes, sir. Warren Dill for Dr. Fisher. This application is to rezone the property to a residential classification in the city of RS. It's currently zoned agricultural in the county that allows 1 unit per acre. But if you read the material that was submitted along with our application, it states in there that the county is in the process of phasing out this 1 unit per acre. And when they come across things, if we were to come into the county for this development, they would be using a classification that allows up to 3 units per acre for this property. We have applied for, and you have approved, a very low-density comprehensive plan classification for the property. That's significant because it limits our units to 3 units per acre for this property. The zoning is RS10, which you can get more than 3 units per acre. You can probably close to 5 maybe, depending on how you design the property. But that's the lowest zoning category that we can go to and still get to 3 units per acre. So that's why we've asked for the RS10, not because we plan to put any more than 3. We anticipate coming in there 2 units per acre, somewhere around that, to be consistent with the rest of Cross Creek. Cross Creek is a very low-density development. The overall density is like 1.9, 2.1, something like that in there. Our density is much lower than the surrounding properties outside of Cross Creek for this area. We are consistent with your comprehensive plan for the property. As said, I think this has gone up to Tallahassee to look at, and they had no serious objections with it. We're consistent with your land development code to the extent that we're doing anything on the property. This is vacant land. You probably all know that. And this is intended to be the last phase of Cross Creek, this one parcel that comes in. We'll be back before you with a subdivision plat, the same as we've done with the rest of Cross Creek. We will be talking to you in detail about the traffic, because we know that some of the residents of our development, but I think primarily the residents outside of our development, are concerned about the traffic. We can talk to you about that tonight. That's why Mr. Scholke's here. It's not the time to do that, but we're not going to hide from it if you want to talk about it. We are prepared to discuss that issue tonight. We have heard the neighbors. We have some concerns and how we can meet their concerns. We have constraints of your land development regulations on the number of entrances we're required to have and where they're required to be located. So we're kind of stuck between the rock and the hard part on some of these items. I don't think I have anything further to say on this at this time, but I would like to reserve a few minutes to come back in case something were to come up from the audience that I have not touched on.
You will have that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Ms. Frazier, would you like to give us a presentation this evening?
Yes, sir. So as stated, it is the second reading of the request for rezoning of Cross Creek Addition. On December 15th, this council, 2021, council was presented this ordinance at first reading, and it was approved unanimously. On November 4th, the Planning and Zoning Commission was presented this request and approved it, recommended approval on this change in zoning. The property consists of 19.58 acres, more or less, located at the southeast intersection of Shakespeare Street and Yearling Trail. The request is to go from Agricultural 1 in the county to RS10 residential single family in the city. This is compatible with the existing uses in the area as well as Cross Creek Lake Estates development. The applicant has not presented a proposed site development plan for the subject property at this time. Staff has found it consistent with the comprehensive plan surrounding land uses, and it provides for orderly development within this area, so staff recommends approval. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Council, does anyone have questions of staff or the applicant at this time?
No.
All right. At this time, if anyone wishes to come up and speak in favor of Ordinance O-21-24, you can do so at this time. Please come forward.
This is for Mr. Mayor?
Beg your pardon?
No, I was not sworn in.
No.
Okay, that's not, this is in favor of.
Oh, in favor of?
That's correct.
I just have a question regarding
Do you wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this?
I have a question regarding the project.
Okay.
Regarding
Go
the
ahead.
wording of the project. It mentions an intersection.
Sir, I don't
of
mean to interrupt you.
Shakespeare and Yearling. There's no intersection.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to, but I need your name and your,
Oh, I'm
and where
sorry,
you're from.
Michael Roth, 474 Memorial Avenue.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
mentions, the wording mentions an intersection of Yearling Trail and Shakespeare. Maybe on paper, there's an intersection there. There's no throughway. There's no, you can't access either way from that intersection. I just, for the record, because it seems like it's on the record that there's an intersection. There's not an intersection there. There's On paper, perhaps you can see an intersection, but you certainly can't drive from Yearling Trail to Shakespeare or from Shakespeare to Yearling. There's a fence in the way, so.
Okay.
I just would like that to be noted.
Okay, I'll just, thank you very much for that
Yes,
for that
thank you
question.
very much.
And again, we understand the concerns that that anytime you do these types of things, please, you may sit down.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Anytime these things take place, there's always concerns. But there are processes that have to be dealt with, and I believe site plan review will be the time to deal with those issues. And so there are gonna be other times when a site plan is gonna be brought before us that will show whatever it is they're gonna do to that property. And if there's any concerns at that time, then that can be brought up in a public forum with 2 readings, if I'm not mistaken, right? So there'll be plenty of opportunity to take a look at it.
It's just inaccurate. It's inaccurate.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else from the public wish to speak in favor of this? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Donna Greco. I live on Yearling Trail, right across the street from where this property is going to be annexed. I'm not trying to say that we are trying to stop progress, but when we moved into the property and we bought the property and built the house, we were told it was a blueberry farm, but it wasn't going to change. I understand that changes do come around, but now there's a lot of different things that are going to be happening at this property that we were never aware of or never informed of. I also know that there's a lot of wildlife that live in that area. There's a lot of turtles that come out of that there, and they come out and they eat. And, I mean, there's just a lot of different, things to consider with the, the wildlife that live in there. And I don't know what they're planning, but this other gentleman mentioned something about the intersection. There is no intersection. The streets are parallel, and I am totally in opposition for any entrance or movement of the fence to then go through from Yearling to Shakespeare Street, because that is just not what we expected to happen, because we're going to have a huge thoroughfare going through there right in front of our house. We would not be happy about that. I don't know what the plan is. I'm not, like I said, trying to stop progress, but I just want to know what they're going to do with that property and what they're going to be building there. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of stuff that was not told to us. And I also agree that the property that we have now at Cross Creek is barely being taken care of. There's a lot of trees that need work, like Pat Sandos mentioned, and all of that property is not being taken care of. And now a new property is coming in, and are they going to be taking care of any of it? Or is it all going to just be cracked sidewalks and trees that need trimming and all that kind of thing? So that's all I want to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming forward. Anyone else wish to speak? Please.
Hi, good evening. Stephen Hitt, 498 Lanfair Avenue. My only opposition would be to the density classification, the RS10. Given that I'm quite familiar with the county zoning district, that I'm an employee at the county, A1 is 1 per 5 acres, so my preference would actually be with something a little more comparable to that versus the RS10. I don't know what that particularly translates. I think they said 3 units per acre, but I think the closest city designation would be the RE40. I think I was just looking just a few minutes ago. So that's really it. I don't really have any opposition to any of the other matters, just the density.
Okay, thank you. Right. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone on Zoom with their hand up?
No one with their hand raised.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Dill, would you like to go ahead and answer some of the questions that may have been brought up at this time?
Well, I can respond to Donna, I believe her first name was. She had a comment regarding the condition of the subdivision. We have a property management company that's responsible for that. Yes, Dr. Fisher still owns the property, still has control over it. I can tell you that I've talked to him about this because it was raised at the last meeting, and he has plans already to go in there and make some of the improvements that they were talking about, even though they're really association improvements that should be done. We're talking normal routine maintenance. We're not talking construction of new sidewalks. We're talking maybe the repair of some sidewalks that was raised. We're talking about not a whole landscape plan, but just sprucing up some of the trees that are there, cutting some of the dead limbs. These are all really just maintenance items. And frankly, Dr. Fisher is concerned about it as Donna was concerned about it, because he takes a lot of pride in what he does. He's still involved in San Sebastian Springs. If you go through there, it's a lovely subdivision, and he wants all his developments to look that way. So he will be getting involved in this himself with the management company, if it takes that, to get these maintenance issues resolved. But other than that, I don't have any comments for the last speaker.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Frazier, any summation?
The only comment I would like to add is that I understand the individual's concerns regarding intersection. When we talk about street intersections, their reference of an intersection like Schumann Drive in US 1, where it is a corner or it's an intersection where streets can go through. There's also the definition of the intersection of 2 points, and that is where that definition comes from in the ordinance. This property is at the intersection of one street and the other. They may not join, that doesn't matter. That property is at that southeast corner of that intersection of these 2 points. And so I just wanted to validate that we realize that these do not create a corner or a drive-through intersection. We understand that. So I just wanted to make sure that they understand, we understand what they're saying. And we found that it was appropriate. So thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. There
Yes,
were some things that were asked, I suppose. The RS10 zoning, now the total number of units available in an RS10 is 10 units, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, it's...
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's 3 units per acre.
It's 3, so the maximum density is 3 units per acre in RS10. So that's the answer for that?
Yes, that's right. Okay, that's why I was looking at Dory going, where did that come from? No, that just means that the minimum lot size has to be 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
That's where that comes from, and we know it's confusing.
Right, yeah.
I get confused.
So it's actually the same, basically, as the Highlands. Or actually, it's the same zoning as the Highlands is basically.
That's correct, and it's the same land use and zoning as Cross Creek Lake Estates is today.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any questions of staff or the applicant from council members?
I was going to say, if I could, that's maximum density, not proposed density.
Oh, for sure.
Because they haven't submitted a plat or a plan yet for the property, but it sounds like from the information that was given when the applicant talked, they were looking at somewhere around 2
correct
units per acre is what their proposed idea is down the road. But that would be on the future discussion, not today.
That is correct, and there's often a lot of, I'm glad you brought that up, Councilman Nunn. There's a lot of confusion often that, the density that you are given on a site, whether it's 20 units per acre or 5 units per acre, is what it's going to be at the end of time, but it is not by right. You do not get that density by right. It is what you can possibly put on the site, but you also have to include our open space requirements, our recreation requirements, the roads, the stormwater, the setbacks. So at the end of the day, you don't necessarily get that high density or intensity. It's just the maximum that you could possibly get on that site if there was no other regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to recommend passing ordinance O-21-24.
Second. Motion is second from Vice Mayor. Roll call, please.
Oh, can I I ask a question, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor?
of course, yes, I'm sorry.
Is because I heard, the residents, it seemed like the last time there were a lot more residents with the concerns of the current property and the problem with the property management. I heard from Mr. Dill that the applicant has heard their concerns, and then I heard Mr. Dill say that the property management is gonna be taking care of this overgrown, the limbs and the broken sidewalks. But I hear it's coming. Is there any sort of a time frame? Could it be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or are we looking at a lot longer? Because I don't know if he has communicated this to those residents. Too late for hands.
I don't know that I can give you a time limit. I mean, whatever I said would just be my opinion at this point. I can't give you a specific limit that whatever these concerns are, which we don't even really have them in detail, are going to take to fix it up. We view it as maintenance, and normally maintenance doesn't take that long to do. It shouldn't.
I'm just wondering what's reasonable. I've heard about cracked sidewalks, you get somebody trip and fall, or the old trees coming down. I mean, I don't know, will it be done before next hurricane season?
I would expect that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor.
And we're not talking trees now, we're just talking limbs. These are relatively new trees that are in there.
Right.
The trees haven't died. I mean, they have some dead limbs on them, is what we're talking about.
And those are always a problem, hurricane time, aren't they?
Well, they can be, you're absolutely right.
Right. And then I've heard, going in and out, so if they fall down, it could be a problem. I just wanted, so the residents that are here, they have an idea that they know by, November? Our hurricane season starts in June, so are we talking June?
Well, let me say this. We are going to be moving forward with our subdivision. Dr. Fisher and Joe Scholke's here. I mean, we can address some of these subdivision issues on timing, but I mean, we would expect to have these taken care of before we come back in with a subdivision plat for you to look at, before we come back in with a site plan. Dr. Fisher wants to move that forward as fast as he can. We want to finish the development, within a reasonably period of time. He's not going to sit on this. We've been moving this through the city as fast as we could to get to this point. As you know, it takes time to get before you folks. We just don't file a subdivision plat application and the next day we're here. It has to go, we go before your planning commission, has to go in the newspaper. All these things take time. I mean, we're aware of that. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that we will have these maintenance issues resolved before we come back to you again, let's put it like that, with the subdivision proposal. I mean, I think that's the best I can tell you. It's almost, when you talk about maintenance items, it's almost like a moving target, because something that's fine today may die tomorrow. What can I say? But Dr. Fisher is aware of this. He was made aware of it at the last meeting. He was not aware of it before. We have a management company that we rely upon to take care of these things. Somebody hasn't been doing it. So we've got to get it done. So I can assure you, when Dr. Fisher gets involved, things get done.
Okay. So you plan on coming back with the plat when?
Well, let me ask your staff, how long does it take to come back with this plat? 3 months? 4 months?
It depends when you submit a completed plat application, sir.
What do you think, Joe? Time for an application? 60 days? Yes. 60 days.
Okay, so 60 days, I can anticipate this stuff being handled then,
That's
right?
60 days for an application to go to her.
Okay, so by the time you come back for the plat, when it comes back here before me, I'm not gonna hear
For
about
you
cracked
or
sidewalks.
us? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope
And I'm
not.
good.
I hope
I'm
not.
good. That's what I heard.
I hope not. We hope another sidewalk doesn't crack after we fix the ones that are there. That's what
And
I
we're
said
not.
about a moving target.
And I understand the concerns of Councilmember McPartlin. Obviously, he wants to listen to the voice of the people, and it's fully understandable, but we're not sitting up here and approving this with any contingency that anything is done to that property, or that that we have a site plan in 60 days. None of that is being, we're not making a vote dependent upon those things.
Correct.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to bring it out. This subdivision is not being maintained by the city. The streets have not been turned over, the sidewalks have not been turned over, nothing's been turned over to the city. So the actions that we're taking tonight on this piece of property, quite frankly, the city's not a vested person in the maintenance of that subdivision.
That's true.
And I've been through this before personally, but so if the owners of the property within that subdivision have an issue with the way it's being maintained, that's civil between them and the association that maintains it. And that's not something that the city can do because we don't maintain the sidewalks, we don't maintain the cities, we didn't put in the landscape. We mandate what landscape goes in there based on the land development code. But it's not the city that does this, so we don't have any way to force the issue on maintenance within that subdivision since it's not been turned over to the city. That's civil between the property owners and the association itself. That's not something between the city and the association or the city and the property owners because we're not involved in that. We're not part of that issue. We do have a lot of things that will come up during this site plan that are left over. There's information about the second exit that's going to come out in this next site plan, about the emergency exit that's going to come out in this site plan. Those things are all going to impact the way that the site plan has to be reviewed because they're things that are part and parcel of the entire subdivision, not just this piece of property. The entire subdivision has to have a second exit, and so that has to be done as part of this final site plan. And I'm believing this is the final plat or the final phase of it, so this will be the final site plan, but it has to address those issues as well when it comes forward. And I think that's the time for the residents to come in and make sure they're actively involved in looking at that and commenting on that. But the city doesn't have no standing at all in the maintenance issues between the developer, the maintenance company, and the residents in that. It's not been turned over to the city.
Councilmember Dodd is absolutely correct, but let me just say what I did before. Dr. Fisher takes pride in his developments, and he's on this now, so he's going to get involved in it, and hopefully things will get cleaned up where the neighbors would be happier, satisfied.
Thank you. Bobby, good?
Well, I understand everything, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're not involved in this. But I just take it for myself as an act of good faith, okay? And that's what I'm saying. And I'm taking it as an act of good faith that this is going to be handled, right?
Yes.
And that's it.
Okay.
And I just want them to know that I heard what they said, and I've heard it every time.
I know you have, and we've heard it loud and clear as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there's some folks that want to speak, and you, by the way, have already spoken, and the public input has been closed on this issue. So we're not taking any additional public input on this. We have a motion and a second, and that's by law. We can't take any. Once we close it, we close it. So, roll call, please.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And we keep on going. Thank you for that. We're up to item 10K, a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number O-21-17, a petition for voluntary annexation of a 22-acre parcel at 9757 and 9825 U.S. Highway 1. We'll open the public hearing. Mr. Anand, can you kindly read the title?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, providing for the voluntary annexation for a contiguous and compact area of an unincorporated real property consisting of 22 acres, more or less, located south of 99th Street and Commercial Development, west of US 1, east of FEC Railroad, and north of vacant property in the City of Sebastian, in accordance with Section 171.044 Florida statute, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's error, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Ms. Frazier, do you have a presentation to give us on this item?
Yes, sir. So as stated, this is the second reading and public hearing for a voluntary annexation of 22 acres located at 9757 and 9825 U.S. Highway 1. This property is just north of Publix and it is bounded, it's north of Publix, and it's bounded on the east
Ms.
by
Fraser, if you
US.
could just wait 1 second.
Of
Folks,
course.
if we could go ahead and either leave or stop talking back there, it'd be great. Thank you very much.
I got Mr. Fisher's ear now.
All right, I'm sorry about that, Ms. Fraser. Please go
That's
ahead.
absolutely fine. It is bounded by, on the east by US Highway 1 and on the west by FEC Railroad. It is again recommended by staff to be approved because it is a good straightening up of our border and our level of service impacts. Currently, it is, the land use is in the county of commercial industrial, and the zoning is CG commercial general and commercial heavy. This land is coming in with a request for a land use of mixed use, and later on, zoning for PUDR. Again, the staff is recommending approval of this voluntary annexation request.
All right, thank you, ma'am. At this time, does anyone from the public wish to speak on ordinance number O-21-17? It's the petition for a voluntary annexation off US 1. Okay, seeing none. Anything else, Ms. Fraser?
Sorry, I think she was raising her hand.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
I just was wondering, that property adjacent to the other piece of property that
No, it
was
is
just
not.
brought in?
It is not.
Because it's north of Publix, you said?
Yes.
On US 1, yes, ma'am.
On US 1, which is south of Schuman, correct?
No.
Way south of Shoe.
Way south.
Oh, yeah, this is way,
south of
it's by the bar, yeah,
Okay, so it doesn't butt up to that other piece of
it
property?
does not.
Okay, thank you.
It's almost by Barber Street. Anything else? Almost by Barber Street. That's correct, right?
Close to 99th Street, yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Ms. Fraser, anything else? All right. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to move for approval of ordinance O-21-17.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 10L. It's a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number O-21-25, a request for a comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment. Mr. Nunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan, future land use map, to designate a land use classification of mixed use for annexed land with a prior county land use designation of CI, commercial industrial, open paren, 22 acres, close paren, and a city land use designation of CG, commercial general, open paren, 7.57 acres, close paren, for land consisting of 29.57 acres, more or less, known as Soundview, at Sebastian, located south of commercial industrial land, east of FEC Railroad, west of US Highway 1, and north of commercial land use, authorizing finding and administrative actions, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing for an adoption schedule.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Ms. Fraser, I'm sure you have
Yes, sir.
something wonderful for us this evening.
This is the second reading and public hearing for a request for a future land use map amendment known as Soundview at Sebastian. On December 15th, 2021, council held the first reading of this ordinance and passed it unanimously. This was also presented to the LPA board, who also provided a unanimous recommendation of approval for this land use change. As stated, this property is 29 acres more or less. What was annexed in was 22 acres that were formerly in the county, but 10 acres, again, more or less, already existed in the city. And they are now requesting that the land use for the entire 29 acres, more or less, be converted from commercial industrial to our mixed-use land use. In the future, they will be submitting a request for PUDR zoning. Their plans for this property thus far are as a mixed-use development of multifamily housing and commercial outparcels. This this requested amendment was sent up to the Department of Economic Opportunity and to our stakeholders, who all rendered an opinion of no comment or no adverse impacts. Should the council approve this land use change, staff will again send this amendment up to the DEO, and after 31 days, if not challenged, it will be considered adopted. The staff, again, is recommending approval on this land use change.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on Ordinance O-21-25, a future land use map amendment for 9825 US Highway 1, also known as Soundview? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number O-21-25.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from council? All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10M is a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number O-21-26, a request for a comprehensive plan, a future land use map amendment for the Marine Resources Council property. Mr. Anand, could you kindly read the title?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving an amendment to the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map to designate a land use classification of CON, conservation, for land with a current land use designation of LDR, low density residential, 5 units per acre, for land consisting of 7.88 acres, more or less, known as Marine Resources Council conservation property, located east of residential property, south and west of St. Sebastian River, and conservation property, and north of vacant agricultural land, authorizing finding and administrative action, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you. Ms. Frazier?
Yes, sir.
It's a busy night.
I'm sorry?
It's a busy night for you.
You should spend a day in my office. This, again, is the second reading and public hearing for a request for a future land use map amendment known as the Marine Resources Council property. The council heard this, the first reading on December 15, 2021, and recommended approval. LPA heard this request on November 4th and recommended approval. The request was sent up to DEO and to our stakeholders, and they rendered an opinion of no comment or no adverse impacts. This property has been in the city for quite some time and is used as an environmental educational center. The Marine Resources Council was able to purchase this property with a grant from Florida Communities Trust, and it was set aside for conservation purposes in 2005. So in accordance with the grant award agreement, they were required to make the land use and, in the next reading, the zoning compatible with conservation. Therefore, they have requested a change from LDR, low density residential, to a more appropriate conservation. Should the City Council adopt this amendment, we will transmit it back up to DEO, and should there be no challenge, it will become effective in 31 days. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on ordinance number O-2126, which is a future land use map amendment for the Marine Resources Council, which will change the designation of the land from residential to conservation? All right, hearing none. Anything else, Ms. Frazier?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Council. What's your pleasure on ordinance O-2126?
Move approval of O-2126.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further deliberation?
I would like to say I'm very excited that we're adding more conservation land inside the city of Sebastian. It's a beautiful thing.
Concur? Roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Leads us up to item 10N, finally. It's a quasi-judicial hearing and second reading of Ordinance O-21-27, requesting a rezoning of the Marine Resources Council property. I'll open that public hearing and ask the city attorney to read the title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the city of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of C conservation with current zoning designation of RS10, residential single family, for land consisting of 7.88 acres, more or less, known as Marine Resources Conservation Property, located east of residential property, south and west of St. Sebastian River, and conservation property, and north of vacant agricultural lane, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Council members, do you have any ex parte communication?
No. No.
All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, do you wish to swear in the applicant and the staff? Staff will do.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you're about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Is there anyone, are they on Zoom? No. Neither.
Okay, that's fine.
It might be Katie Savoy. No? Okay.
We'll just go ahead and go to staff presentation on this
That's
one.
okay. This is the second reading for the request for rezoning for Marine Resources Council property. Again, the council heard this request on December 15th, 2021, and approved it unanimously. This request was also presented to our PZ Commission on November 4th, who also recommended approval unanimously. The request is, again, to change the already conservation utilized property from RS10 residential single family to conservation in conformance with the FCT requirements, and staff recommends approval.
Wonderfully done. Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions on this issue?
Well, in case anybody picked up on it, on our agenda item under the ordinance item, it says agricultural lane, L-A-N-E. That's actually land, but in the ordinance document, it actually does correctly say land, so I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak in favor of this issue, of this ordinance? It's not an issue. Anyone in opposition? Ms. Fraser, any summation?
No, sir.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance O-21-27.
Second.
Motion is second. Thank you for that. Nothing further from council. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, there's no unfinished business this evening, but we do have some new business. Item 12A, award the Aaron's Companies, Inc. as the design-build firm to design-build an office improvement in Hangar C. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you may know, on November 10th, we accepted a grant from FDOT. It's a 50-50 match, 35 from DOT and a $35,000 private match. And that's to construct additional office space in Hangar C. The purchasing manager put out RFQ 22-04. We received one proposal from the Aaron's Companies, and he is also doing Hangar D, and he was the original constructor of Hangar C. And we went through the process, and they were all evaluated and scored. And with that, we would ask you to approve RFQ 22-04 to the Aaron's Company and authorize me to negotiate a maximum price to bring back for the city council to approve.
Council, what's your pleasure on item 12A?
Move approval.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this item 12A? All right, hearing none. Any discussion from council? All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Anon, is your voice still working for you this evening?
I'm good, but nothing from the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carlisle, yours is not, but you may go.
I do have a couple of things.
Okay.
One is the FPL undergrounding has been going well. I've been out there a few times and watched the progress, and they seem to be doing what they said they would do, so we're pleased about that moving forward. You will see that the railroad has put up the signs that they're going to be working on Roseland Road. We do have an agreement with them to only close one intersection in the city at a time, and between now and the end of March, they'll be working on all the intersections throughout the county. And they've been very cooperative with us, adding some safety measures as it goes through, but be patient. We do not have a timeline on how long each intersection will be because they're different sizes. Karen is our city engineer is gonna try to work that out with them to find out what timeline for each of our intersections so we can alert the public. I will tell you, Schumann Drive is going to be a challenge because of the length to get around, so we've made some changes to that. And Vickers, we've been working with them on 99th Street to build a bypass because that's only a one-way in, one-way out. But I just want the public to be patient. This is a tedious process, but we're getting a lot of safety improvements. We've negotiated some great safety improvements with them, and we're really looking forward to it. That's all I have. I think that's all I can do right now.
All right, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes. Like Mr. Carlisle, my voice is probably out. We spent the last several days in Tallahassee advocating for cities' rights for the Florida League of Cities. We were a part of the delegation from the Treasure Coast region. And, you know, we had a lot of conversations with different state senators and representatives. And let me tell you, it was a challenge up there just walking around that building first and foremost. I got a lot of steps in because we were back and forth through that building all day on Tuesday. We got up this morning. We had meetings at the Capitol until about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And Mr. Carlisle and I left from Tallahassee, drove straight here, got here about 4 o'clock this afternoon to get ready for this meeting tonight. But on the advocacy end, we believe we were effective in some of the things that the Florida League of Cities wanted to talk about, some of these bills that they have out there. And I won't bore you with the details of all these different bills because, you know, it's just not fair for you right now. But we believe we had some small wins. We may have had some failures, but we won't know until the end of the day when they vote on everything. So when that comes, then we'll know. But we were there advocating for local municipalities throughout this session. So. And like I said, I think we were effective, so we made a lot of good contacts. So hopefully things go our way as far as local municipalities, because there are some bills there that could cause some cities to go bankrupt if they're passed. So we're hopeful that we accomplish something. And thank Mr. Carlisle for his support up there as well, and the Treasure Coast League that we went there together. We really became a cohesive group, and we presented our ideas to the senators and the representatives, and they were very receptive. So we'll see how it plays out in the end. That's all I have.
Thank you. We really appreciate you guys doing that, you know, going up there. It's so important that, you know, the league offers, you know, some opinions on where we should go with a lot of these issues, but it's like so many times you look at the senators and our representatives who get up there and they forget where they came from. You know, I mean, it boggles my mind to see some of the things that they're trying to do. You know, every single city in the state of Florida is unique unto itself. And so you cannot just roll a blanket out and say that this is a law that's going to cover all of these cities. in the zoning realm or in some of the growth and development issues. So it's very good that you went up there. I very much appreciate your hard work, and thanks for burning the candle tonight.
Thank you.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes, thanks for going up there, and it'll be important when those bills start coming in, and sometimes they try and sneak them at the last minute, is to pay attention, because we got to make phone calls, make emails to say, hey, we're watching what you're doing up here. So, well, this one thing, I didn't know if I was going to bring it up, but then I think I have to, is, you know, I'm sure everybody got the emails about the pickleball courts. I can't believe I got to talk about this. I'd imagine these are adults down there. I know Brian's on it. Brian's met with some of them. He's going to meet with other ones. But if he can't come to a resolution, I hear these, I mean, they're older than me, and I'm almost a senior myself. If they can't get along, I'm kind of like, shut it down for a week. Do like the Army. You know, if one person messes up, we all lose out. Or if we got to send an attendant down there, he goes down there and we charge double what they're charging. But I can't believe we're going through all these problems. People just can't get along. I mean, it's a beautiful court down there. If I got to take up pickleball and go down there those certain times, there might be a problem. But, I mean, just get along. I mean, they're beautiful courts. You were up here. How many years we went through about doing them? Then we build them and then we get complaints. We didn't build them the right way. And it's like we had workshops. We had everything. And those are the best courts here. And people just can't get along. So I just don't understand that. So then the other thing is, a week ago Monday, you know, I sit on the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council. We have what's called the point-in-time count for the homeless people in our community. And the count, that bases what the federal government sends down for supporting the homeless in your community. And I've been out there in the woods for years, and I see the camps, but I never caught the people. And they don't count unless you fill out the form. And just so you know, this past Monday, you know, we had a great volunteer who helped up in the North County here, Frank Nolan. We went out and we actually counted 17 people for the Sebastian area. And that's the first time I can say since 2013. Like I said, as I went to the camps, but the times I went to the camps, a lot of the homeless were out working. And again, these are not just people who just don't want to follow rules and using drugs or drunks. Some people can become homeless just by missing one day's work. And especially now the way they're working out things, some landlords, bad landlords, not all landlords, are going, they don't give you a yearly lease now. A month-to-month lease. And they go from 1 month to the next month and can raise your rent $200, $400 a month. I've gotten some emails from here over supposedly the affordable housing. You know, seniors that are on a fixed income and they're raising their rents $100. $100, you got to pick between medication or milk or some other item that you need. So just, you know, I've gotten a lot of, as everybody, about the Dignity Village, which is being proposed. I heard about the project before the sale. I called the city manager. I had spoken with Mr. Brown from the county and also Mr. Mattson. And again, I followed up with Mr. Mattson last week. The fears that people have are just fears. So, and you know, the city is watching it. I know I'm watching it to see if there are some plans and they have to change it. They have to submit a site plan and they're going to have to be in compliance with all of that. And that part will be watched very closely. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Nunn.
Thank you. By the way, if we do charge double, that would still be nothing. The pickleball courts are free. So if we have to put an attendant down there.
For the lights we charge though, don't we?
Only if they reserve it. If we do have many problems down there and are forced to put an attendant, it means we'll have to charge. Please act like adults and don't make us do that. So good news, we have amazing employees here at the city, but I received some communication about one of our police department crossing guards this week, and I just wanted to read the letter from Miss Jody Shirley. This is a young woman that works the school crossing in the morning for Sebastian Elementary. She stands at the south side of Sebastian Boulevard. I meant to write this several days ago when we had a cold spell. This is a very kind young lady. She had several children gathered at her stop waiting to cross, but since it was very cold outside, she was showing the children how to stay warm by running in place and other movements in place. Their children were doing everything she was. It warms my heart to see someone go the extra mile to make a difference. Way to go, Crossing Guard. We need more people like this in the world. Well, obviously, this is Tina Iofredo, and if anybody's ever met her, she's an amazing woman, gives all of her heart to everything she does. And I just want to say kudos, congrats from myself and anybody else that wishes to do that. My second thing, it's funny that I'm going to talk about Dignity Village. So I had lots of questions and so many rumors and so many fears. I figured the only way to get the real answer to this place that's not in the city of Sebastian, but sits in our Sebastian community, even though it's outside of our city limits, is Dignity Village. I met with Anthony, the director for the facility. I went and took a tour of it. So there's been a lot of rumors that this is going to be a homeless camp, that this is going to be a transitional housing camp. Those things are not true. It's going to be affordable housing. They're going to charge like $500 to $600 a month to live there. There's going to be no requirement to be out in 6 months like some of the other places like this in town. It's going to be on a month-to-month rental like a hotel, so it won't violate their zoning as they are. They're cleaning the place up. They're doing beautiful things. If you saw some of these places that the prior owner was charging $700 a week for, listen, I would rather sleep outside in a sleeping bag than some of these places. They're cleaning them up. They're putting new appliances. They're redoing the whole place. I'm giving you an invitation. If you want to go visit this place, call Anthony, the director for The Source, and go look at Dignity Village. Go see what they're really about. Don't believe the rumors. Don't believe what the fears they're trying to tell you. They're going to make this a small, affordable housing complex for people that need it. And if you think being homeless is a bad thing, listen, you would be surprised the people around you that you might know that are homeless because they couldn't afford the rent of their new landlord, or they couldn't afford their bills that month, or they got laid off and now they're living in their car. You would be surprised how many people that serve you every day are in that position. Not all homeless are drunks and drug addicts. To the opposite of what is believed. Homeless just means you don't have a place to live. I would love to see a little more care in our heart. And if you're really interested about learning about Dignity Village, call Anthony, the director. He would love to give you a tour and talk to you about the place. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate your passion, my friend. Mr. Dodd.
Okay, I just have one thing. Mr. City Manager, at our next meeting, can you provide some more exciting topics in the agenda? I mean, I know these things are legal requirements and we have to do them, but would you please get a little bit of something that we can get some, I don't know, maybe even some angry people to come up and talk to us about?
Whoa. Settle down.
And, you know, I understand the need to do this stuff, but please, more exciting stuff next time. Thank you, I'm done.
Well, I found it very exciting, the Hangar C construction
I like that
project
one.
is very good for us. Like I said earlier, that is quite a boring agenda, but I mean, those legal things we had to get through, but what a lot we did get through. So that was well done by council. I had pickleballs on my list too. It's funny that all of us probably had pickleball, but you know, I mean, I just question, are there rules that people aren't following? And is that what's causing the problem? And if there are rules that people aren't following, I mean, I don't know. There's been tennis courts in the world for 1,000 years, and so I guess the pickleballers are a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's one group or something that comes out there, and I think the trouble days are Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. Is that correct, Brian?
And they're coming from Vero Beach, right?
No,
Okay.
there's a lot of
All right. That's
posturing,
enough.
if I may.
Thank you
Mayor.
very much. There being nothing further, we are adjourned.
Stop the